نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنطعم من لا يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون ونفخ في السور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قول من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون ومن نعمر ننكسه في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون ولم يرى الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون صلوات
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. تبارك الذي بيده الملك وهو على كل شيء قدير، الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا وهو العزيز الغفور، الذي خلق 7 سماوات طباقا ما ترى في خلق الرحمن من تفاوت، فارجع البصر هل ترى من فطور، ثم ارجع البصر كرتين ينقلب إليك البصر خاسئا وهو حسير. ولقد زينا السماء الدنيا بمصابيها وجعلناها رجوما للشياطين وأعتدنا لهم عذاب السعير. وللذين كفروا بربهم عذاب جهنم وبئس المصير. إذا ألقوا فيها سمعوا لها شهيقا وهي تفور، تكاد تميز من الغيظ كلما ألقي فيها فوج سألهم خزنتها ولم يأتكم نذير. قالوا بلى قد جاءنا نذير فكذبنا وقلنا ما نزل الله من شيء إن أنتم إلا في ضلال كبير. وقالوا لو كنا نسمع أو نعقل ما كنا في أصحاب السعير، فاعترفوا بذنبهم فسحقا لأصحاب السعير. إن الذين يخشون ربهم بالغيب لهم مغفرة وأجر كبير. وأسروا قولكم واجهروا به إنه عليم بذات الصدور. ألا يعلم من خلق ما هو اللطيف الخبير. هو الذي جعل لكم الأرض ذلولا فامشوا في مناكبها وكلوا من رزقه وإليه النشور. آمنتم من في السماء أن يخسف بكم الأرض فإذا هي تمور، أم أمنتم من في السماء أن يرسل عليكم حاسبا فستعلمون كيف نذير. ولقد كذب الذين من قبلهم فكيف كان نكير. أولم يروا إلى الطير فوقهم صافات ويقبضن ما يمسكهن إلا الرحمن إنه بكل شيء بصير. أمن هذا الذي هو جند لكم ينصركم من دون الرحمن إن الكافرون إلا في غرور. أمن هذا الذي يرزقكم إن أمسك رزقه بل لجوا في عتو ونفور. أفمن يمشي مكبا على وجهه يهدى أمن يمشي سويا على صراط مستقيم. قل هو الذي أنشأكم وجعل لكم السمع والأبصار والأفئدة قليلا ما تشكرون. قل هو الذي ذرأكم في الأرض وإليه تهشرون. ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين. قل إنما العلم عند الله وإنما أنا نذير مبين. فلما رأوه زلفة سيئت وجوه الذين كفروا وقيل هذا الذي كنتم به تدعون قل أرأيتم إن أهلكني الله ومن معي أو رحمنا فمن يجير الكافرين من عذاب أليم قل هو الرحمن آمنا به وعليه توكلنا فستعلمون من هو في ضلال مبين قل أرأيتم إن أصبح ماؤكم غورا فمن يأتكم بماء معين صدق الله العلي العظيم اللهم صل ولا ما يقدر.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الرحمن علم القرآن خلق الإنسان علمه البيان الشمس والقمر بحسبان والنجم والشجر يسجدان والسماء رفعها ووضع الميزان ألا تطغوا في الميزان وأقيموا الوزن بالقسط ولا تخسروا الميزان والأرض وضعها للأنام فيها فاكهة والنخل ذات الأكمام والحب ذو العصف والريحان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان خلق الإنسان من صلصال كالفخار وخلق الجان من مارج من نار فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان رب المشرقين ورب المغربين فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان مرج البحرين يلتقيان بينهما برزخ لا يبغيان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان يخرج منهما اللؤلؤ والمرجان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان وله الجوار المنشآت في البحر كالأعلام فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان كل من عليها فان ويبقى وجه ربك ذو الجلال والإكرام فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان يسأله من في السماوات والأرض كل يوم هو في شأن فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذب فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان سنفرغ لكم أيها الثقلان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان يا معشر الجن والإنس إن استطعتم أن تنفذوا من أقطار السماوات والأرض فانفذوا لا تنقذون إلا بسلطان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان يرسل عليكما شواظ من نار ونحاس فلا تنتصران فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فإذا انشقت السماء فكانت وردة كالدهان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فيومئذ لا يسأل عن ذنبه إنس ولا جان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان يعرف المجرمون بسيماهم فيؤخذ بالنواصي والأقدام فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان هذه جهنم التي يكذب بها المجرمون يطوفون بينها وبين حميم آن فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان ولمن خاف مقام ربه جنتان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان ذواتا أفنان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فيهما عينان تجريان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فيهما من كل فاكهة زوجان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان متكئين على فرش بطائنها من استبرق وجنى الجنتين دان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فيهن قاصرات الطرف لم يطمثهن إنس قبلهم ولا جان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان كأنهن الياقوت والمرجان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان هل جزاء الإحسان إلا الإحسان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان ومن دونهما جنتان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان مدهامتان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فيهما عينان نضاختان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فيهما فاكهة ونخل ورمان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فيهن خيرات حسان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان حور مقصورات في الخيام فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان لم يطمثهن إنس قبلهم ولا جان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان متكئين على رفرف خضر وعبقري حسان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان تبارك اسم ربك ذي الجلال والإكرام صدق الله العلي العظيم.
رحم الله من قرأ سورة الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب العالمين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. صراط الذين غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Please recite another Surah Fatiha for Marhuma Saliha Bashir Ali Abdullah bint Aziz Japanwala, widow of Bashir Ali Abdullah, and of course mother of Sister Amreen Razak. Surah Fatiha. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي قصرت عن رؤيته أبصار الناظرين وعجزت عن نعته أوهام الفاسفين. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية فادخلي في عبادي وادخلي جنتي. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات محمد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. First and foremost, our condolences to the family of Marhuma. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give sabr and patience to the bereaved family. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to elevate the status of Marhuma, give her a place in the Jivar of Masumeen, alayhim wassalatu wassalam. The recitation of Surah Yasin, Surah Mulk, and Surah Rahman with the beginning of Hadith Qusa. Of course, we dedicate all of these recitations and all the Quran that was recited, and from the time of her demise till now, all the other acts of charity and khairat that has been taken care of, has been done. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provide the thawab of all of these things to the soul of the departed soul, inshallah. I recited these 4 ayat from Suratul Fajr. Maghrib is at 7:26, I believe, so inshallah, I'll be sure to conclude a minute or two before that. It'll give you enough time to go ahead and do wudu, and inshallah we'll have Salatul Maghrib. I recited these ayat from Suratul Fajr, which is chapter number 89 in the Holy Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in majority of these chapters in the 30th juz, there's a common theme which is being mentioned. And that common theme is a picture of the Qiyamah. A picture, a depiction of what will take place when the advent of Qiyamah takes place. So of course, no one can predict and no one can say with certainty that this will happen in Qiyamah, because no one has been there before. But Quran comes in and gives us an overview to what to expect. Sort of like when you're going to a new place, when you're going for, let's say, ziyarat, and you have never been to this particular ziyarat before, or you're, for example, planning on going to Hajj, because of course, ziyarat is just going and doing the ziyarat of that place and coming back, does not involve any wajibat or muharramat. But when it comes to Hajj, it involves a set of wajibat that has to be taken care of. Something off a little bit could cause you the entire Hajj, or kafara will be, implemented. The timing of certain things had to be taken care of. You can't be at a certain place, a certain time, or a certain day. Or, other restrictions that come along the moment you put on the ihram. And so you have to be mindful. You can't look into the mirror. You can't put on any fragrance. You cannot do many of those things which are halal for you if you were not wearing ihram. So Hajj becomes that difficult, of course, in that sense. So when you go and you're, seeing all of this for the first time, you become overwhelmed. What helps before you embark on this journey to have a couple of Hajj classes? Someone who has done this before walks you through the process as to this will happen when we arrive in Medina. When we go from Medina to Makkah, this is the route we'll take, this is what you will do, the first action, the second action, the 13th action. All of those things are detailed, laid out in front of you. Even when everything is explained, it's one thing to just see and hear and learn about it. It's another thing to experience it altogether. So but of course, those who have prepared themselves, they are better off than those who have not prepared themselves. It's a rule of thumb. For anything that you want to go, you have to give a presentation to your company. You go through the rehearsal before you can present it. You'll have a better chance as executing it, better than if you didn't prepare yourself or rehearse yourself. Why? When you were rehearsing, what happens? You were able to catch some of the mistakes. You were able to address some of the questions that might be asked by those of your superiors who are looking at this presentation. So always preparing ahead of time and being ready makes life easier. Isn't that the case? Similarly, if you are explained ahead of time with this muqaddimah that could go on and on, with this muqaddimah, when we know that, of course, preparing ourselves and being ready for something which is a big day can go a long way. Then when the Qayamat is explained to us, the day which is a day like no other day, the day in which, as the ayat of Quran explain, Al-Qari'atu mal-Qari'ah wa ma adraka mal-Qari'ah. Qari'ah used as a name for Qayamat or Jahannam. Then what do you know what this Qari'ah is? Yawma yakunu nasu kal farashil mabthuth. The day when the humans will be flying around like moths. وَتَكُونُ الْجِبَالُ كَالْعِهْنِ الْمَنْفُوشِ. The strong jibal and the mountains, they'll be like fluffy clouds, right? Floating from one place to another. Can you imagine? These mountains which are unshakable, they'll be floating like these fluffy clouds. That's one depiction of what will happen when Qayamat takes place. And then there are many such ayat in Quran which explain the advent of Qayamat. That other signs of it that are talked about. And some of them are really scary. Can bring fear into insan. But what helps is that you and I can prepare for it ahead of time. We are given a heads up that you're not walking into that advent without preparation. You have ample opportunity to get ready for it. So that when that opportunity comes in front of you, when that time comes in front of you, you're well prepared. You're not caught off guard. Therefore, always remain ready for it. A lot of time, and I gave this example of when you prepare to give a presentation, you work ahead of time and you make sure that you, not only the presentation that you're giving is perfect, but your personal and physical presentation is also up to par. Because you'll be presenting and you have to look better as well. And that which you're producing and presenting, that has to be also effective. We get this opportunity to present something to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is the boss of all the bosses. We get this opportunity to present to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is king of all the kings. Every time we stand up in salat. Every time you're standing for salat, you're presenting something to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It depends what kind of presentation you are giving and how you're presenting yourself physically as well. Not just getting out of the bed in whatever clothes and then doing wudu and standing up and then expecting that this salat will do wonders for us. No, paying heed before you stand up for that musalla. And then what kind of delivery do we have to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What is the presentation? The salat, which is lacking khudu and khushu. Salat, which is merely sitting up, going down, bowing and prostrating and nothing more than that. There's no ruh and essence in our salat. In other words, jaise buzurg kehte the uthak baitak. That's all there is. Nothing more than that. And plus, we don't know what we're communicating with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Parents made it upon us obligatory. They taught us when we were young, so we learned it. We have to do it. And so we carry on with it. But if that is the presentation, you give it to someone who is your superior in this world, what are they going to do with it? They'll reject it. Guess what? The salat which is presented in this fashion in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, riwayat mention, these are not my words. Riwayat mention that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the angels, throw this salat back at the person's face. Now you get the reason why throwing it back at someone's face means what? Metaphorically, throwing back at someone's face means it's rejected. It's not accepted. Take it back with you. We don't need this sort of salat from you. Allah has given us this opportunity to communicate with Him 5 times a day. Present something to Him. Every time your presentation should be better. Have you not learned? And you should be presentable to Him as well. But yet, we see that there's no increase or there's no betterment as far as our presentation to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is concerned. So the Qiyamah is presented to us, explained to us. We are told what to expect. We should be ready when we embrace it, the day when it comes, so that we're not caught off guard. And then the riwayat further elaborate on things if something was not mentioned in Quran. Although Quran says, وَلَا رَطُبٍ وَلَا يَابِسٍ إِلَّا فِي كِتَابٍ مُبِينٍ, that we have not left out any dry or wet. But still, of course, to understand everything from Quran would be difficult for you and I. So Ma'asumin came and elaborated further. This is what this ayat is explaining. This is what this ayat is talking about. This is what is being meant over here. Some things that you may not have been able to figure out. Let me bring you to the subject matter. This is one of those surahs which also talks about the advent of Qiyamah. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala begins many of these chapters in the 38 juz with some sort of qasam. Wal fajr, walayalin ashr, washaf'i wal watr. These are the initial aqsam that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes in this surah number 89, Suratul Fajr, for which I recited the last 4 ayat for you. Before I get to those last 4 ayat, it begins by Wal Fajr, by the dawn, the time of dawn. And of course, Ramadan comes around, it's around the corner, we'll be dealing with the time of dawn. right? That time of dawn which some of us neglected throughout the year, comes the time of Ramadan. I'm sure everybody gets to get up at the time of dawn and to be able to present themselves in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the very important 2 rakat salat known as Salatul Fajr. Yes, there's a salat called Salatul Fajr that we may have neglected all our lives. No, Maulana, we do pray it, but we pray it like 1 p.m. afternoon. Many of us got in the habit of praying the Salatul Fajr after Dhuhr, thinking that that's okay to pray after Dhuhr. No, there's a time specified for it. Keep it to that time. Don't do that much ijtihad that you can move around the salat however you want to do. So, Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So with that, begins with Qasam wal Fajr. Walayalin Ashr. And Allah takes an oath by the 10 nights. وَلَيَالٍ عَشْرٍ وَالشَّفْعِ وَالْوِتْرِ or watr. By the odd and the even nights. So Mufassirin mentioned that these 10 nights could be the last 10 nights of the month of Ramadan. Why? Because of Laylatul Qadr in it. Some mention that this could be the first 10 nights from the month of Dhul Hijjah, from the 1st of Dhul Hijjah until Eidul Adha. And some also refer to that these are the first 10 nights of month of Muharramul Haram, from the first day of Muharram until the day of Ashura. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is taking an oath, which one of these 10 nights are important, that Allah is swearing by it. Nonetheless, one of the implementation of the oath by the 10 nights, if you compared with the last 4 ayat which I recited, gives us belief that implementation may be with Sayyidul Shuhada, Imam Hussein ibn Ali, alayhim as-salatu was-salam. Allahumma salli. Why? Because of the relationship Hussein has with Ya Ayyatuhan Nafsul Mutmainna. This is not tafsir bir-rai. So Maulana, where did you get this from? This is not tafsir bir-rai. This is not tafsir with the opinion. This is something which is mentioned in Rawayat of Ma'asumin. That yes, Quran has a tafsir which is related to the time when Quran was revealed. So for example, Qul Huwallahu Ahad was revealed when the Jews came and asked Prophet, explain Allah to us. Rasulullah waited for 3 days until these ayat came down. Qul Huwallahu Ahad. O Prophet, tell them Allah is one. Allahus Samad. He is absolute. Lam yalid wa lam yulad. He begets not, nor was he begotten. Lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. And there's no one like him. Rasulullah recited these 4 ayat for the Jews. So this is Shan-e-Nuzul and the tafsir. But there is something which is called tatbiq, the implementation of this ayat. The tafsir might be limited to the time of Rasulullah, but the tatbiq is till the day of judgment. That's what makes this book Javidan. That's what makes this book ever living, everlasting. That is not only for the people that lived 14 centuries ago. This book is just as relevant to those who live today and will remain relevant until the day of judgment, regardless of how humans progress and they become advanced as far as the technology is concerned. Worth mentioning over here that my late father translated the Quran in Urdu. So the tarjuma of Quran is mawjood, many people have it in Urdu. And then he also translated the tafsir al-Safi. But in the tarjuma that he did of Quran, there's a muqaddama. Majority of the time we don't read the muqaddama. No, we just skip past the muqaddama and we get to the actual book. No, sometimes read the preface, the muqaddama of the book, and especially the muqaddama of Quran. He mentioned that there might be people who might question, and they did question when he was translating, Maulana, what is the need of another Urdu translation of Quran when we already have so many? Right? Maqbul Ahmad, Farman Ali, and Allama Zishan, and other translations of Quran that we have in Urdu language. Why do we need another Urdu translation? So he responds in it. He poses this question and he responds in it. He says every 50 years there's a need for the translation of Quran. Every 50 years. Why every 50 years? Because human progress in 50 years, well, if you look at the last 50 years, it may be quadrupled. But usually 50 years, you double your progress. So things that you know now, or things that you did not know 50 years ago, now are very easy for you to comprehend. Things we did not know about, for example, the universe, now we know about them. Why? We are progressing. The advancement in technology is making things easier and clearer for us. The world is becoming more known to us. We're understanding what is causing the decline of the earth, for example. What is causing this earth to, for example, as the gases and other things that are released into the air, how it is going to be destructing and taking it towards destruction. We know those things. We did not know that 50 or 100 or 200 years ago. Every 50 years you are progressing as society. So as you progress as society, when you translate this Quran 50 years from now, many of the things that you have understood with discoveries by looking at the nature from a smaller or a more stronger lens, those ayat of Quran will make more sense to you. Those ayat of Quran that didn't make sense 50 years ago will start making more and more sense to you. And he gives one example. I'll give you that example. Maybe it helps understanding. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. He said, we have these tafasir mawjood from the time of, the Ghaibat-e Kubra of Imam Zamana. So 1200 years ago, we have tafsir from 1200 years ago. We have tafasir for 1000 years. We have tafasir for all these years. But of course, the technology was not there at that time. So he gives example of Tafsir Safi of Mullah Faiz Kashani, who did this tafsir nearly 300 to 400 years ago. 400 years ago, Mullah Faiz Kashani, when he came across these ayat from Surah Zilzal, فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَهُ وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَهُ. Just like any other scholar. In fact, I don't know if I can do the tafsir of these ayat better than any of those great scholars who lived 400 years, 500 years before me. But the scholar who lived 400 years ago, who translated this ayat, that whoever has done an atom worth of good will see it. Whoever has done an atom worth of bad will see it. They translated it because they know the language. But they couldn't comprehend the idea of seeing it. Because there's no concept of seeing something which is being recorded right now. They didn't have camcorders. They didn't have televisions. They didn't have DVRs. They didn't have these smartphones where you can record the moment and then present it later on. They didn't have these surveillance cameras all around us. They didn't have these cameras which is relaying this Majlis live on YouTube, for example, so that it will be preserved as long as YouTube is there. They didn't have any of these things. So there's no concept of being able to show something after it is recorded and captured. But yet the Mufassir translated the ayat. Whoever has done an atom worth of good will see it. Whoever has done an atom worth of evil will see it. We didn't know how to perceive this ayat until today. Now that we have advancement of technology where we know that things that are recorded, you look at some of these, professional sporting events, that they are shown from variety of angles. Have you ever, I'm sure, especially when you watch American football, all these different angles that it's shown from, and if your TV is of the highest of the quality that is available, then the experience is as if you are sitting in the stadium. Right? The 4K quality or whatever it is that is out there today. As if you can see it and you're sitting there right there. Imagine that what technology we have today, which makes you see things so clearly that there's no doubt about what just took place. Just imagine the technology that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has. that when we will be presented in front of Allah and we will deny, oh Allah, I did not commit that act. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, okay, you want to see it? Here's the 4K technology you had. Here's the 4000K technology. Let me show it to you. Where there's no denial, because it will be shown from every single angle. Right? Today there might be 4 cameras focused on me. But Allah's cameras are, 360 degrees, can show you from every single angle that act which is being committed. So just be ready for that. That's why the translation of Quran has to be done every 50 years, because as our minds get more and more advanced and things become more and more clear for us, ayat of Quran start making sense and more sense to us. Salawat bi Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So the ayah says, Ya ayyatuhan nafsul mutma'inna. O the serene soul. O the soul which is satisfied. O the soul which is mutma'in. Ya ayyatuhan nafsul mutma'inna. You see how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not say, Ya ayyatuhal jismul mutma'inna. Because He does not want jism and the body to be mutma'in. You and I all know how to make our bodies mutma'in. You just ate. No, I'm not satisfied yet. I want to eat more. You just had a cup of tea. No, not satisfied. I want to have another cup of tea. You just ate some sweets, dessert. No, I'll have another ice cream, for example. Why? The jism is demanding. And when jism start demanding, we give in. Mind gives in to the body. Mind is so easily caves in as soon as the jism starts to dictate. Unfortunately, jism will dictate in every such direction. This is where mind has to become stronger to be able to reverse and say, no, I am in charge, you are not. I am in charge and I will dictate what is good for you and what is not good for you. That's why you see those people who are so punctual in their timings and who take care of their health and who manage their wealth properly, they don't cave into these demands that come left and right. They are in control. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does say, oh, the body that is mutma'in. You can bring the body however you want to. Allah is looking for the nafs, the soul which is satisfied. Itminan-e-nafs is more important, not itminan-e-jism. I don't have time to further elaborate this, and inshallah the understanding is there. The madda, the materialism and immaterialism. When you purify this body, is the materialistic aspect. When you purify the soul, it is the immaterial aspect. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not looking for this body to be, beautified. Let me use the word beautify rather than purified, because you want to keep the body pure as well. Because what goes in the grave is the body. What goes to barzakh is our soul. The barzakh, that's where the soul is. Yes, regardless of what happens to this body, decomposes after a few years, maybe 30 years, completely gone from the grave. Nothing remains. And you recited in Surah Yasin that how will these bodies that have decomposed, who will raise them back again? Fahiya Ramim. They have completely gone and non-existent. Allah says Allah will return them back. The way He created them for the first time, He will reunite your decomposed body with the soul which is in barzakh. Together they will be presented in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Qayamat. That is something which is mentioned. Yeah, we can't imagine that right now. Can you comprehend that? That comprehension hasn't come. Maybe 50 years down the road, when we get more and more advanced, we might be able to make sense of how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will join the soul and the decomposed body together in the form and shape that we have right here in this world. That understanding might come in 50 to 100 years. Not right now. So that's why Quran must be translated every 50 years so that our mind is able to accept it. The second ayat, I don't have time. Ya ayyatuhan nafsul mutma'inna. So body is not what it requires the itminan, it's the soul which has to be mutmain. Irji'i ila rabbiki radiyatan maradiyah. The word nafs is mu'annath. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses the mu'annath sense. Irji'i, return to your Rabb in the state that you are radhi and your Rabb is razi with you. Every single one of us is inshallah razi with the qaza of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That which He has decreed for us. There might be some people who might argue, no, I'm not razi. Well, God help you. But majority will say, yes, alhamdulillah, I'm razi with what Allah has given to me. I'm razi with what Allah has taken away from me. Because He gave it to me and it's His and He took it back from me because it was His. So we're razi with the qaza and qadr. No, the real deal and the real skill is mardiyah, where Allah is razi from you. You and I can be razi with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and satisfied and pleased with what Allah has done for us. But the real skill is if Allah is also razi with you. How do you get to a place where Allah becomes razi from you? All you've got to do is follow the lead of Ahlul Bayt. Because regarding them, Allah says in Quran, وَلَا سَوْفَ يُعْتِيكَ رَبُّكَ فَتَرْضَى. Habib soon will give something to you which will satisfy you. Meaning Allah is satisfying and pleasing the Prophet. And therefore, if you just follow his lead, you will be amongst those as well whom Allah is trying to satisfy. رَاضِيَةً مَرْضِيَةً فَادْخُلِي فِي إِبَادِي وَادْخُلِي جَنَّتِي. And I'll conclude. Become my servants and enter into my paradise. Very important. Become my servants. We have not understood the concept of being servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have not shown servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Someone who's more powerful than us in this world, right away, we're ready to give in. But when we know that there's an entity which is all superior and requires that servitude from us, we still show arrogance in front of him. We won't show arrogance in front of, I don't want to name any of the world powers. But let's imagine there's a king, there's a president, there's someone who's in authority above you. Will you show arrogance in front of him? Forget about all of these kings and whatnot. Your boss, the one whom you work for. Do you show arrogance in front of your boss? More than likely you don't. But you don't have to either. Because, you're in good relationship. But if ever there comes a time that you're annoyed by something that your superior has done, do you show arrogance? No, you keep your emotions down. Because you're worried about the job. You lose the job if you showed emotions like that and you showed arrogance in front of them. Then you'll say, Khudafis to this job. So you don't show emotions like that and you don't show arrogance in front of the worldly gods of ours, but we're so quick to show arrogance in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Maliki haqiqi. So servitude is what is needed. And lastly, فَدْخُلِي جَنَّتِي. Enter into my paradise. One sentence regarding this and Rabt al-Masaib. Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam al-Muttaqeen Ali ibn Abi Talib ﷺ said, and Imam connects the first ayah with the last ayah. Nafs mutma'in and Jannat. Imam said, your nafs is worthy and valuable. So valuable, فَلَا تَبِيعُوهَا إِلَّا بِالْجَنَّةِ. If there's ever a case where you have to trade your nafs for something, don't trade it for anything except for the Jannat, except for the rida of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why the ayat was revealed, وَمَنْ يَشْرِي نَفْسَهُ ابْتِغَاءَ مَرَضَاتِ اللَّهِ. Who is that has sold his nafs for the marzi of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And of course it is the nafs of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam. But that Ali who gave his nafs, slept in the bed of Rasul, so that Rasul could be safeguarded. That Ali, how he's treated towards the end of his life. But before Ali's treatment, let's look at how the wife of Ali is treated. When we talk about the Masaib of Janab Sayyidah, it's very heart-wrenching that she is amongst the four of those women that Rasulullah mentions to be the superior of all women in the world. There aren't more than four that are considered to be the most superior. One of them is Fatimah Zahra. And then Rasulullah adds further on to it that she is Sayyidatun Nisa'il Alameen. She is the Sayyidah of all the women of the worlds. Not just paradise, the worlds. And then she's someone who is the only daughter of Rasulullah. And then she's someone who is the wife of Amirul Mu'mineen. And then she's someone who is the mother of Sayyida Shabab Ahlul Jannah. How many more merits? It is as if to say that Fatima, if she had nothing of her own merits, it was enough that she was the daughter of Khatm al-Anbiya, that she was the wife of Sayyidul Awsiya, that she was the mother of Shabab Ahlul Jannah. It was enough for her merits and her honor. But no, Fatima is Fatima herself. When Allama Iqbal talks about Janab Sayyidah, compares her with Hazrat Maryam, mother of Hazrat Isa, he says Maryam from one nisbat is Aziz to because of Hazrat Isa alayhi wassalam. But Fatima Zahra with three nisbat is Aziz. What are the three nisbat? One is that she is the daughter of Rasulullah. Second, she's the wife of Amirul Mu'mineen. Third, she's the mother of Hasanain. And then he explains further the merit of Fatima. But one of the authors came, Sariyati, and he writes in his book, Fatima is Fatima. He said, none of these are merits for Fatima. Fatima is Fatima, and that is the enough merit for her. You don't need anything else associated as far as the father or the husband or the children are concerned. Those things are nasbi. They do not reflect on someone's personal merits. But Fatima possesses personal merits. And that's what she is. But how the community treated her, what happened to her, that only after a few days after the demise of Rasulullah, that you see that the house of Sayyidah is attacked. That you see that how the door upon which Rasulullah used to stop and used to say, Assalamu alayka ya ahla baytin nubuwah. That house is under attack. There's fire that is brought to that house. The door is brought down. Riwayat mentioned that Fatima was squeezed between the wall and the door to the extent that the nails from the door pierced through the body of Janab Sayyidah. That Amirul Mu'mineen at the time of Ghusl, he weeps and he shouts the name of Fatima. People asked, "O Ali, why was it that you were shouting? O Ali, why is it that you could not bear?" He said that Fatima's pahlu was shikasta, and as I was given ghusl, I had never realized that Fatima was hurt all this time, yet she did not mention it once. على لعنة الله القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. Allah, please accept our ibadah tonight. Allah, we've committed a lot of sins. Please forgive our sins. Allah, give us the tawfiq and ability to follow the commands and the teachings of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wassalam. Allah, make us amongst the true followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wassalam. Allah, hasten the reappearance of our awaited Imam. Make us amongst the helpers and the soldiers of Imam. Please recite another Surah Fatiha for Marhuma Saleha Bashir Ali Abdullah Binte Aziz Japan Wala. Please recite Surah Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم. Inshallah, let's prepare for namaz. Azan dilwa. Thank you.
إن الله ملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله صل على محمد وآل محمد أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين عليا ولي الله أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين عليا حجة الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير الأمل حي على خير الأمل الله